It is 9 o'clock on Monday, September the 9th, 2019. I call the Father County Commissioners order. Today we have Herman Moore from Carter Chapel that will do our invocation. So if you will please stand and remain standing.
Father, heaven, we come first and foremost, thanking you for being God, Father, and Savior that you are. Thank you for the peaceful assembly that you allowed us thus far to do in this country. It's been brought to my attention, I know you already know about it, that 3-year-old that was in the wreck this morning that ended up to not native, God. We pray that you would have mercy upon his soul and have mercy upon the loved ones who stand around bereaved. We thank you, God, and realize that whether we live or die, that our lives are in your hands. We pray, oh God, that you allow him to make the transition to sleep of death. And we have somewhere to go. Comfort the loved ones and the grieved ones with that knowledge of you and keep them in perfect peace. And I pray for this body, Lord, this county commissioner's court. Lord, you have allowed to serve us in this county. Pray your blessings upon them, God, and your spirit be upon them that they would make the judgments, determinations that are pleasing in your sight. Bless them and keep them as our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from August 26, 2019, Father County Commissioners Court. So recognize vouchers. To consider and act upon the approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the county office August 21, 2019, September 4, 2019. Check numbers 187243 through 187447 and wire transfers 1281 through 1287 in the amount of $2,566,059.86. I have a motion.
Move to approve the checks and wire transfers as stated by county judge in the amount of $2,566,000.
Second for discussion. A quick question, if I may, Judge. Sebastian, this might be for you. Page 16 of 28, check number 187415. Looks like around $2,000, a J-Pro diagnostic software. Can you help educate me what that is?
It's to run diagnostics on trucks, some of the fire trucks. It saves us way more than $2,000 a year, just because Grafton fix those vehicles in-house, they send them to the shop, they'll charge us a lot just to tell us what the problem is and then fix it.
So is it for the fire trucks themselves
It's
or
for
just
our trucks,
your
fire trucks,
Okay.
anything else we can do.
Okay.
Basically for preventive maintenance, perhaps.
Yeah, and if it sends a code out, it looks it up, and it tells us what the code is or what the problem is.
I'm just surprised that piece of equipment doesn't exist maybe at the sheriff barn or something.
We have one.
You have one as well? So there's a need for two?
Yeah,
Okay.
we got plenty of equipment ourselves.
Okay.
They're different. His works on big trucks or it works on passenger vehicles.
Did you ever work on humans?
That's all the questions I'm trying
Needs to work that.
I have a motion and a second on the favor. Thank you. Number 3, the insurance report. Page 3.
There's nothing unusual on the insurance report, but I did want to mention that the large claim that I mentioned last court should be resolved. Heard back from TAC and it's episodic in nature and should be resolved unless there are unforeseen complications.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Number 3, so recognized. Number 4, tax office to consider and act upon refunds for overpayment of taxes. Sherry, is there anything, just the usual mess up? Okay. motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the refunds of overpayment of taxes as presented to the court.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Number 5, elections, to consider and take action as needed for the November 5 constitutional amendment election, early voting, election day, hours and locations, order appointing election officials, establishing hours of operation, establishing a maximum number of clerks for early voting polling places, order appointing early voting ballot for judge and establishing maximum number of clerks, order appointing officers for Central County Station, and an order to order the constitutional amendment election. Did I miss anything?
I didn't hear you.
Okay. No.
No, okay, so, the first thing is the early voting, well, first of all, I want to talk about our election day locations. I'm recommending that we open 12, that means we're gonna be closing one in each of the precincts. That would be Wesley, United Citizens Forum, Discovery Center, and Valley York. So, we are having in this election 10 amendments, and nothing else was thrown in, so this should adequately cover our voters.
So Melinda, just to make sure I'm following, you're only recommending it for this particular election cycle, it's not like these locations?
Oh, we
will
have
always
these now.
come.
No, we have these now.
Okay,
Yes,
so just based on what's on the ballot, just the constitutional amendments and nothing else,
right.
then that's kind of why you're feeling it's appropriate to kind of downsize the locations.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
We need to vote on each one individually.
No, I don't think that we need to at all. I don't think that it takes anything. It's more me informing them, and if anyone had a concern, then I just wanted to hear.
I mean, I understand why you made the decision, and I would support that decision. My only, maybe pause or concern is anytime voting locations change, it affects pattern of where people are used to going to vote, right?
Correct.
So as a voter, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, that's a constitutional election, so I need to double check my locations. Anytime it's not a fixed cost and a fixed location, I feel like that affects votes, but that's my own opinion.
It does, but, these are all for the lowest places with the fewest people affected. And we will be posting notices. And there's a new law that at any polling site, we have to post the 4 closest locations to that anyway. In case you get somewhere and there's a big long line, you know, the 4 geographically closest places that a person can go to.
Okay, so,
And one thing that you'll also see on this is that we now have Trinity Baptist officially as our polling site. So that is a new one. So we will be posting at Missoula that it is no longer a dozen.
So you'll post about the hours.
Oh, yes. We'll even laminate it because of weather. So, there's that. Okay, and so that's that, the first pages you see, those are the hours which we've already approved and the locations. Then we have the order appointing the elections officials, establishing hours of operation, establishing the maximum number of clerks for early voting places for the November 5th constitutional amendment election. Okay. Now, do you need a
I
motion?
move that we approve the early voting and election day hours and locations. The order that appoints the election officials. Order appointing early voting ballot for judge and number of clerks. The order that appoints the officers for Central County. And the order to hold the constitutional amendment election for November 5th.
Sir.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Is that good for you?
Yeah, good. Can I get you this one, this one? So that we-
Yeah, I was just curious on that, obviously, that's what she's going to do later, but go ahead and sign it. Okay, number 6, Emerald Potter Events Venue District, consider and act upon Emerald Potter Events Venue District 2019-2020 fiscal year budget. This budget is funded through 5% car rental tax and 2% hotel occupancy tax. Amarillo and Potter Events Venue District operates and maintains voter approved entertainment venues within the city. Budget is recommended for approval by the Amarillo Potter Events Venue District Board. Michelle, I have to say Potter Events Venue District one more time.
If you guys will let me say venue district, my
Yes, you will.
presentation will be cut.
Okay.
Do you all have a attachment with the budget, should have a cover letter with that? I'm gonna go over a couple of numbers, surprise. If you'll turn to the second page of your attachment is, a summary of the budget. And we're gonna be working in, there's a lot of numbers on this page, the third column, which is next year's proposed budget. And starting the year with $4,494,000 in available funds. And then if you look over to the right, we've been keeping those funds in two different pots. $500,000 for common reserve, $1,274,000 for the AEC portion of the project. Remember, there are two portions of the project that were funded by these tax dollars. The AEC Center at the fairgrounds and expansion at the Civic Center. And in the city's portion, 40%, $2,719,000 available to use for the city. And the reason the city's portion is a little higher than the AEC portion is because they have not spent as much on renovation as we have at the AEC Center. Back to the third column, if you'll look at your revenues, we have total revenues of $3,269,000. Vehicle rental tax revenue of $1,092,000, hotel occupancy tax revenue of $2,092,000, and then, interest income of $85,000. And then if you look at your total expenditures, $2,783,679, your total expenses. So in this case, your expenses are less than your revenues, so we are growing fund balance, making those dollars available to be used for future capital projects. Your largest expenses are your, account 63705, Amarillo Tri-State Participation, $300,937, and that is for repairs and improvements, and there's a detailed list of that if you'd like to see it included in your packet at the AMC Center. And as you can tell, that's a decrease from what was spent this year. This year, we were just over $1 million. They had some other large capital expenditures for this current year. The AMC management contract of $500,000, and that's an increase over the prior year of $328,248. That amount had not been increased, I think, almost since the beginning of the AMC, so they're just trying to address growing operating costs at the center. And then the Civic Center management contract, $298,000, that's flat from last year, and again, it allows for operating expenses associated only with the portion of the Civic Center funded by the Indian District. And event development, $355,000, and those are for events development at the AMC Center. Civic Center improvements, $150,000, that's to do some projects over at the Civic Center funded portion. And then your event service, $866,248, which is, you have two outstanding bonds, and those are your annual debt service payments, leaving total expenditures at $2,783,679, and growing the reserves or available funds to just under $5 million.
Question, Michelle, where does it fit on the line item? I think this time last year, when we reviewed the budget, there was discussion about a larger line item to get air conditioning in, I wanna say the Rex Baxter building, but I could have the building incorrect.
Okay, if you look on your second column of that same page down at the bottom,
Okay.
there's a listing of the projects that were done this year
Okay.
and for next year. And I'm looking to see if that was one of our projects.
I mean, I see, AC units, I just don't, the price tag, I expected it to be a larger price tag with that footprint, the square footage in that building, but that's just me. It doesn't look to me like that is the location. I just don't know if that project indeed got
Because
done.
I think that new emergency management system, is that the one you're looking at on HVAC?
No, I see AC unit, but that one references an IT room.
And that's for and those are for next year, yes.
Okay, I just didn't know if you knew if that was done or.
I am not aware, but that's something I can follow up with, and I can send you that information.
I can answer that.
Oh, thank you.
That was not in the budget, it was discussed, but Rex Baxter is not in the footprint of the venue district,
Okay,
so it would not be, the venue district expenditure.
okay. And then maybe a larger question, especially now that the city has launched their civic center expansion and what that's gonna look like potentially. How will the venue district work alongside the city so that the two initiatives kind of complement each other and not compete against each other? Does that question kind of make sense? Still very early, I'm sure,
It
but.
is very early, and as you know, it's really the north part of that, meeting rooms and spaces there, or what we're funded from the venue district. That part is not gonna go away. It is going to be, the plan is to greatly improve it. So that part of the facility will still be there, and the city hopes to continue to work with the venue district on that piece. As you know, the city has a long-term lease for that piece.
Mhm. And I guess I'm thinking more in the inverse dialogue, the property that does sit on the venue district on the fairground property,
Yes.
like the ANC building, right,
Yes.
in the arena, if you will. How how these kind of two entities work together and kind of complement the work. I just don't know if any of that dialogue is being done.
I think
by the
that's
president.
something to be done, as you know, we just announced it last week, so we have not, the city has not met with the district yet, but those talks are certainly going to happen.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And I forgot to introduce you all to Terry White, the president. Yeah, I should have done that first.
Well,
Wait, no.
before my.
Okay, any other questions? Any motion?
Move we approve the recommended budget for the Everett Fire Defense Venue District 2019-2020 year.
Sir.
A motion, second, all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, tiers, number 1, board meeting to hear a report on the August 22nd meeting, and we discussed the need to replace one of the 3 private county board members.
Okay, I'll, first of all, I gave you, in your packet, a sheet that shows what was happening here, what has happened to taxable values in tiers 1. If you turn it to the one page, it says taxable values before tiers 1. And in, starting in 1985, it goes to 2006 when tiers 1 first started. And we went from high of nearly 200 million valuation down to 139.5 million valuation in 2006 when we started. So you can see where the valuation of downtown was really going down. And so after tiers was started in 06 until 2019, we went from that 139.5 million, we're now at $245.4 million valuation. So and we're already 13, 14 years into this project. 35 years will be up, for 30 years will be up. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. We did meet on August 22nd. And the first thing we heard was our quarterly financials, and then we discussed our budget for 2019, 2020. Of course, our court doesn't have to approve that budget, but I just wanted to give you some brief figures that kind of show our budget. We are looking at total expenses of $1.1 million a year, and that includes all the refunds that we give out and so forth. We also look at a targeted fund balance of $486,000. That's a city requirement. cover so much as a 90-day operating service reserve and a 1-year debt service reserve. So that's where that 486,000 comes from. We added 50,000 more to our community projects, and what that entails is if a business comes and wants to do some streetscape, we have up to $50,000 grants we can give them. So that's what that 150,000 is used for. Another project that we're kicking off, and that's one of the items on the agenda, was the wayfinding project. And what that is directional signs for both pedestrian and vehicle traffic to find different things like the Civic Center, City Hall, Hodgetown, whatever in downtown. But anyway, we have been budgeting $125,000 a year for that, and we upped that another 50,000. Hopefully it'll get started this year.
What is that comprised of? What do you weigh from
Signs,
signage? Signage, that way?
yeah.
So how much is in that, how much currently is in that,
125.
125 currently?
And we're just putting another 50 in. And bad if I missed it, I'm sure. One other thing that came to us was an application for an incentive for help with streetscape for the Happy State Bank located at 701 South Taylor. Guess they're doing some renovation there and asked us for a grant, and we did approve it, $50,000. Happy State Bank. So that pretty much was it. The other item that I thought we needed to discuss is we're supposed to have 3 members on our representing Carter County on the Tiers 1. And we have 1 member that it's been a year at least since he's attended. And I think we ought to consider replacing that person. But I don't think we ought to vote today, because I want to give everybody an opportunity to have their input and who they might want to put on there. Right now, our representation is myself, Tad, and Judge Jones.
I have a dumb question. You mentioned the 50,000 for Happy State for the streetscape. Is that an allowable amount that we do for those entities that well afford to do that work themselves, or is that something that falls in the local, this is what we do?
We don't, as far as I know, that is not a requirement that they have to show a tremendous need for the project. It's something, the city in the downtown plan has decided what they want the streetscape to look like. So if a business comes to us and wants to do it, it's gonna cost them a whole lot more than $50,000, that's for sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, so 50,000 is more of an encouragement than the pay for the whole project. No, we don't look at whether or not they can afford to pay for it.
Okay, anything else? So, everybody bring a name back next time. I'm sure it won't work. Okay, thank you. Number 8, tiers number 2, do you report on tiers number 2?
So in the same spirit, since Commissioner Church had placed one on the agenda, I thought I'd give an update. I sit as chairwoman of Tiers 2, and so a little bit of maybe just setting the framework. So Tiers 1 was established in 2006, Tiers 2, December of 2016. So roughly 10 years apart. The ask is $100 million of net new development, along I-40 East frontage between Eastern and Lakeside, just to give everybody kind of a visual, not exactly, but that's roughly the boundary. So the board has been actively meeting, every month. We also meet with the city, the exec team meets with the city every Friday to talk about what are key projects in that area and how can we continue to move that. So along the same lines, we have partnered with a third party who is now in the process of doing a market study, kind of a strategic alignment, no different than the work that happened well before 2006 and how Tiers 1 kind of got off the ground. So I'm telling myself to be patient, which is not a virtue I carry, but it obviously is taking a couple of years to really rally the troops to do some type of development work over there. So we have pulled in a third party, the group is B&D, who we have been working with. They did a market study also for the local government corporation, as a part of Tiers 1, so they obviously knew of the area. So they have come on site and done about 2.5 days of site visit and meeting with key players in the city. And so what I wanted to share with each of you is a little bit of who they've met with, but we do expect an output of that, an actual document kind of working. The follow-up will be a document and even potentially financial tools, financial incentives, which we know when we're developing at this scale, that is what developers expect, is some type of incentive. And this particular area of the city, quite honestly, lacks quite a bit of infrastructure, water, drainage, all the things you would typically think about in really raw land. So there are some things that we're really working uphill, if I had to, kind of describe it like that. But some of the people that we met with Dan Quant at the CVC, obviously the Lee family, they are key in some development work happening over there. The Mitchells, they own land in that footprint. Patel's, Deepak, owns land and has actually built a couple of hotels since the baseline year in 2016. Wittenberg family, Bivens Foundation, Emerald National Bank representative, and then Emerald Economic Development Corporation. And then a few kind of in there, but those are really the big groups that we brought together to say, A, do you know this project is even happening? B, what type of input? And then C, how can you really help get this off the ground? What I think is missing from Tiers 2, and this is my own opinion, is we don't have arms just yet like a Center City, right, that pushes Tiers 1. We don't have arms like a local government corporation that was the contracting body to get the Tiers 1 projects done. So there were funds and loans and all kinds of transactions to get what we saw done downtown. We will need something of that scale to really draw that type of development, but it is where we sit today, so we're working uphill.
So given what you just said,
Yeah.
and certainly plausible, that where are we in the scheme of things that was Tiers 2 and focal point that it was so hard?
Well, and I'll be very honest, I don't think it's the conversation yet, right? And I think part of what got the movement in downtown and Tiers 1 is it became the conversation in quite a few circles. And I always think a good testimony to that is when you see these placards, like what went up there is so many names on those placards of people that helped get that type of development. So it's not one person's project, it's everybody's project. It was everybody coming together to get that type of work done. So to answer your question, where are we? We are not there yet, right? And so I think it needs to become a priority for a lot of municipalities, us included, right? In that, do I think we're a willing partner? Yes, we are leading this discussion, but it would be no different, Commissioner, to be honest with you, is if this development was happening in North Amarillo. It's tough to get this off the ground, and if we're not having the conversation, then no one is, and I think that's what we're charged to do. We're lucky that we're elected in precincts. We know our city is at large, so we know these communities, they're our backyards, and I think we're at where we're at today. We're at least having the discussion. I hope I'm alive to see it get done. But I think it is really fruitful, and I think it's time. I think a lot of people feel like it's time, and quite honestly, on I-40 East, I mean, it just, the traffic patterns, as you see the numbers, the amount of traffic that comes through the city, you would be shocked, even though you live here. right? And, the land is fairly inexpensive when you compare it to the Sansi growth and what's happening over there. So I think it's no different than bringing a brand new model to saying, can it get done? The good things that we have working, in our favor is that it's raw land, there's a huge footprint, it's I-40 frontage, all the traffic sits there. If we could just get a couple key partners to really kind of move that dialogue.
Hopefully that's what D&D.
Yeah, and I think part of what we're expecting them to turn around is not only, saying, you know, you've got these 15 things in your plan of what you could get done in that area. You know, so that's the big goal, that's the 30,000 foot view, to really hone in on the 12 to 13 things, 15 that we've got in the plan and say, really, these 2 to 3 are what your market shows you, right? This is the Amarillo market, not only that, but also the financial models to get it done, right?
One comment I had on that, I was on the tier board in 2009. And I think you have to be very patient, because it took a long time for all this stuff downtown to happen. It didn't happen overnight. There were people totally against that project, that fought it all the way. Finally it got done. Be patient, it'll get done, trust me.
But I might need to call you sometimes when I'm not having a good patient day. But I mean, it is important because the zone was established. It is, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I really feel like it is the first unanimous thing that passed all governing bodies. So I feel like people would give a nod, the work needs to happen, and now it's where the rubber meets the road of how is it really gonna happen? And I think that's the voice we bring to the table. We're elected in our precincts, and so I think that's our charge, to keep advocating.
Okay, thank you. Number 9, disposition of capital credit funds, to consider and act upon the disposition of the capital credit funds received in the amount of $7,057 in a manner authorized by section 381.004 of the Texas Open Government Code. So this year we have 7,000, last year we had 5,700, so it's going up a little bit every year. Any comments?
Other than Judge, are you wanting us to make recommendations of how to use the dollars? Is that where we're at? I have one clarification on the document that was provided to us last year, 2018 allocations, the North Heights Association. Melinda, keep me honest, wasn't this the North Heights Art Project?
North Heights Art Project is attached to the North Heights Association.
Okay, so
the
that's
North Heights
how it is.
Association is the nonprofit.
Okay, so in that same spirit, especially since our allocation has gone up, we know that we're launching the Barrio Arts Project
Yes.
in that neighborhood plan too. So if we divide out kind of a similar way, I would put their name in the hat this year, because they're launching a very similar thing that I know
Okay,
Lynn
so,
needs in her off time.
she has no off time. That off switch doesn't work.
Yes.
So last year, we gave to CASA, the Bridge Arts Program, and West Texas County Judges Commissioners Conference, which we had, won't need that anymore, so
We could bring Snack Pack back because we took them off last year to do the host
I
conference.
would love that. So CASA, Bridge, the Arts Program with Barrio, and
And Snack Pack.
sound good? Divided by 4 ways by $7,057.
We need that motion.
I need that motion.
I make a motion that we approve, disposition of capital credit funds in the amount of $7,057 divided 4 ways equally, to the Bridge, CASA, Snack Pack for Kids, and, the Barrio Neighborhood Plan specifically for the art project. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Who made that second? It's your turn. Number 10, Good Friday holiday, to consider and act upon the addition of Good Friday becoming a paid holiday. Any objections?
What's the cost?
Is it not?
I'm a Catholic.
It's not
What's
already,
the
that's why I
cost?
want to make it a holiday, because no more plans.
It's officially not.
Officially, yeah. No one's ever here on Good Friday.
I was
They
like,
all-
let's get this.
I'm just saying, a lot of people take that day off anyway, so.
I will tell you, as an office who receives customers on that day, or the public office, we really do not have that many people, because they are assuming, because Randall County is closed, that Potter County is closed. And so I could probably bring you a total of what we made for the day, and it doesn't pay anybody's salary in for the day,
Especially yours.
especially mine, you're right.
And the tax office can second that?
Yeah.
Okay. And the district clerk's office, she said that she thirds it, so.
Sounds like it's running
So, I'm all for it, except I'm just asking a question to me. So if another religious holiday comes up, what do you do? That's not necessarily Christian.
I don't know. I never thought of that.
Well, I don't think we celebrate, not all of the holidays that we have are religious holidays. And I think, I understand what you're saying, but I think maybe when it comes down to it, I'll just say what I think, but it just maybe is a common sense still whenever Randall's closed.
Why do we want to follow that? They don't follow us.
Well,
Not in everything,
I would also
but
note that AISD is closed.
yes.
They also, which provides a bit more of a general support for the idea that people can stay away.
And their kids.
The city,
have a problem, no, I'm
Yeah, no, yeah, and I agree, but I think aligning the day off with other governmental, local governmental offices, so people expect, okay, close the day is a reasonable, neutral basis for
I'm
recognizing.
not sure if the city, does anybody know if the city?
I don't know, it's city.
Terry, do you know if the city's closing Pittsburgh?
I do not know.
I'm just curious about that. The weird thing about that is that the banks and the post office is open on that day, so.
Federal
Right. All right, let's do a motion. Let's not talk anymore, let's just talk.
I'll second that.
All right, have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. Yay, you're welcome. Okay, number 11. Number 11, IT report, do your report on the current status of IT projects. Good morning.
So it's been a busy couple of weeks since we were here last, so I've got another list of updates to share with you all. Of course, this is in addition to the day-to-day support and ongoing regular activities the IT department takes care of. So first, our new security appliance, Firewall, has arrived and is in place. So there are a few phases to implementing this, and so phase 1 is completed. We have 2 phases to go, which involve getting some professional services from the vendor to help with configuration to make sure it was as good as it can possibly be, and then to deploy some software and repair to it. So we are glad to have that. The original unit we had was a loaner, so this is the permanent unit that was again. Second, we have finished deploying our software to all the computers. The only ones that are missing now are some that maybe aren't powered on in a closet, something like that. It's going to require some manual walking around and finding them, looking for missing things like that. So we do have a plan, and we will be going through every department and looking for things like that, making sure that those get, I'd say 99% at this time have our management software.
So what will that management software do?
It does a lot of things. It's got multiple services rolled into one, but the most important things it does is advanced monitoring. So it monitors the hardware state of computers for things like predictive failure. It can tell us if the hard drive is going to go bad before it does in some cases. It logs security issues. So one example would be failed logins. And that's really important. So if somebody's trying to log into your computer, guessing passwords, notifies us that there's failed logins occurring. So it's a combination of hardware and security services.
Thank you.
Sure. Next, the new Lever cooling unit is in place and is doing its job. So the room is 68 degrees. So thanks, Nick. See you, ladies. Good help job. Push that along, get that done. So we're really excited about that. We've completed moving from the old ticketing system, where folks are putting in tickets for their issues, to our new ticketing system. Again, the hope there is that will alleviate, take the onus off of the end users and put it on IT to open those tickets and kind of improve our customer service and communication along the way.
Has there been any feedback on that, on the new ticketing system?
I'm sorry, from the staff or from the user?
From the user, if I'm calling in,
Oh, yeah, when I'm meeting with department managers and talking to users throughout the county, nobody likes to hear tickets. They have a talk.
they wanna call in and say, this is happening to my computer.
Yep.
You guys-
So, yeah, so you can either call or just send an email, so it having to go to a web portal and do all the little drop down boxes, and we got some feedback that was kind of cumbersome, people didn't like doing it, so we wanna make it as easy as possible for issues to be reported to us, so we just basically added, those methods, whereas before, it was really encouraged to only put in a ticket for
And you're finding that, you can man the phones, people aren't having to leave messages, or, they're getting a response, or what is that?
For sure, the phone traffic hasn't really changed that much, it's more emails. And that's what we see across our entire client base. People just, these days, want to be able to just shoot a quick email, hey, this is happening, can you help? So we've got an easy email address for that to go to, and that goes to coordination in our department to make sure that each one's handling their topic. So we'll be tracking, and providing some metrics on that information as far as how quickly tickets are resolved, open issues, and things like that. Next, we performed a site survey of this building, last week to try and get a plan together for how we can improve the wireless situation, the phone issues, all the kind of network issues that have been going on here for many years. So, that's gonna be a ongoing process, and it's gonna be broken down in many layers. We won't go ask to wire the whole building at once, for instance, but our goal is to come up with some different solutions based on each department, what it looks like, the demands, the number of people in it, things like that. So hopefully there's some areas where we can do some non-invasive cabling, maybe in some areas we can use some different wireless technology, but we've got some really good folks on our team looking into that, and coming up with some plans, so we'll be looking for some solutions and presenting those to you folks in the near future.
But that's been a discussion for several years now, and I'm sure you're prioritizing with high traffic areas, like I keep looking at Julie because I know the problems they've had in their department. Okay,
Yes, absolutely.
and then working with the historical commission, I know there was a lot of questions about what we could do or couldn't do since we got historical dollars for this property.
So we haven't done anything along those lines yet. We want to start with just what is a good solution for each department, and then we need to bring specifics to you folks for some guidance on that solution. So next, we're still working on the high availability backup server. In our last update, I told you we had some hardware issues we were resolving. We resolved the first round of hardware issues, and I've been working with the vendor to get that system up and running. It's broken into multiple nodes, and so we had the first half ready to go. Starting the second half, we ran into some more hardware issues. So we're now working to resolve those. The unit's still under warranty, so there's no cost involved with that, but just time working with the vendor to get bad hardware components replaced.
And is that the one out at the LEC, or is there something?
It's the one that was destined for the LEC.
Destin?
Right, hasn't made it there.
I like that.
So, you may remember
That's on the
data
way.
needs to be synced up, but first we have to take care of the hardware issues. To make sure, it's running correctly, efficiently, and we're not gonna have a hardware failure once we're using it. In the meantime, temporary offsite backups are continuing to run during this time for redundancy. That's at no cost to the county either, we're paying for that. It's kind of our, we wanna make sure, as I mentioned last time, that there's multiple backups of everything, so until that server's up and running, we're covering the cost for that.
And that's offsite under your umbrella?
Yes.
Okay.
We did discover there was an existing electrical need at the LEC for that system and the backup system, where we need some electrical changes. We've asked for, we received a quote for more electric to resolve this. It's under $1,000. Basically, we need different power plugs for the equipment that needs to go out there. In-person cybersecurity training has started. So far, David's completed training for auditing, purchasing, treasurer, and facilities departments. So we will continue to do in-person training with each department individually or small groups. And then online training, that's the self-paced component. We'll begin in October after the licensing of that is purchased.
And I think David has included all of us in the training as well, so I encourage us to attend one of them. One, so we have an appreciation for what's being trained, but two, so we're part of the team.
So after we train, then we want to issue.
We'll give you your computer back.
And so I'll send out a schedule of any questions moving forward, so that you can attend one of those, and if you can't, get together, that's fine, just hold it for.
No more than three of us will ever be together, but yes, if you will send anything out, that'd be great. And I saw you're having one.
Yeah, we're having one this week, so if
Thursday.
anybody wants to join us, feel free to bring snacks.
10 o'clock. It's the 12th at 10 o'clock.
I think so. Don't look at my calendar. You looked at my calendar?
No, I checked his, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding, okay.
So next, Steve Developer and Chelsea have been working on getting data set extractions out of the old football roll-in system to go into Spillman. So they have completed another extraction, sent that off to Spillman, this week, or last week for conversion. So Spillman's working on plugging that into a test system, and pouring it into the live system, to make sure that the data all matches up where it should. So right now the ball's in their court, there'll probably be a little bit more back and forth before it's actually installed. That's about it as far as our list of projects go. Like I said, that's in addition to day-to-day IT needs and keeping everything running, so.
Couple follow-up questions. Commissioner Church brought up last time about the burn ban on the county website. I haven't checked it, and I'm assuming that has been updated.
I think we updated that, but I'll check the meeting.
Okay, all right.
I haven't checked.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. And then you mentioned encryption of devices last time. Is that what your application is doing? Is that, when you give that update, is that the same thing or is that a separate line?
That's a separate item.
Okay.
So that's something that is happening on every new computer that's being rolled out automatically. So the team has spent some time working on an integration. Whenever a new computer is set up, it automatically does it so that there's no manual component that could be missed. So it's happening on all new computers going forward, and it'll be happening department by department, computer by computer, to get all of the older computers encrypted in the same manner. So that'll be on for probably a few weeks before that's complete. So as of the last meeting we completed, we started with the IT department to make sure there's no issues, and now we're branching out. It's just something that happens in the background as
Yeah.
well, so.
With mobile units, notebooks being the most important, since they're taken off-site. If the unit's lost or stolen, it's encrypted, you just have to replace it, and you don't have to worry about the data. So definitely the mobile units are most important, things that are taken off-site.
And then the Motorola truncating system, I don't know if there's an update on that one. That was something that was mentioned at the very first meeting, saying, don't forget.
Yeah, it was just basically, he was just letting us know that we were gonna be supporting it, there were any issues and nothing so far.
And then maybe just in terms of housekeeping, Judge, so Judge and I did coordinate, and I will be meeting with Andrews and Associates just kind of once a month, outside the court. If there's anything that we need to talk, I would open that invitation to one more member of the court, as you know, we at least have two of us. So if anyone would like to join that meeting, we've already set that up for this month, but you're welcome to join.
Yeah, thank you so much. Number 12, tab 2, consider and act upon the approval of the 47th District Attorney's Office 2019-2020 contract with the Panhandle Automobile Theft and Burglary Unit, and the approval of the City of Amarillo's memorandum of understanding with the Panhandle Automobile Theft and Burglary Unit. Come right here. You must be Patrick. So, do you have anything to tell us?
Well, the contract that the 47th District is Michigan's law enforcement authority in the 47th District, along with asset forfeiture, what we do with those funds.
So along those lines, what we typically do with those funds?
We, since I've been part of this, we have never had any asset forfeiture at all. So, those would probably go back to my equipment, if we have any asset forfeiture. And usually if we do have asset forfeiture, if it's a trailer or something like that, we actually use that in one of our operations, our day operations, that day operations.
Judge, I don't have a question on the contract. I know we've done this for several years now. The only thing I guess I have a question on is I remember when we first started this, there were some stats. Like I always think about them like startling statistics that we're the highest percentile of crime in this area. And you think, how could this be when it compares us to other cities? But it's the way the metrics are counted.
Yes.
One thing that I would be, for me personally, would be helpful when this comes up for renewal is to see some type of data points of we're doing this and it was effective and the number dropped, or we did this and we tried it, didn't work, the number stayed the same, like some kind of an appreciation for the work happening on the ground. Because it's been a couple years, I know year one, we can't really expect that, but after that, that would be helpful to know exactly what that work is looking like, if you're seeing high pocket areas, because we will all have our precinct hat on. In my mind, I envision a map, and we would have our precinct hat on and say, well, that affects that particular section of the county, right? Those kind of things I think would be helpful, even as a follow-up from today.
Okay, anything else? Any questions, any comments? Any motion?
Move to approve the 47th District Attorney's Office 2019-20 contract with Pan Automobile Theft Delivery Unit. And also the approval of the city memorandum of understanding with the Pan Automobile Theft and Burglary Unit.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. Yeah, he did, I was thinking that he did, but I was gonna assume he did it twice.
He was a yes vote.
Oh, okay.
Judge, I confirmed with the city, and Good Friday is not a holiday for them, for what that's worth.
I bet it will be now.
That's our little lead.
I'm just sharing the information.
Okay, number 13, text share registration, to consider and act on the approval of the text share registration implementation program agreement with text share local government. Jason.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
Hey, I'm here to talk to you this morning. I know that, before I get too far, I know Judge that Randall sent you a copy of the most recent agreement. I don't know if, we've had 4 versions, and so I wanted to make sure that in case it mattered, that you all had the most current. I brought those in case you don't. The only addition that's been made that may not be included in the version you have is with regard to data scraping, data mapping from APE. So that would be inclusive in this, and we'll describe that process a little bit later.
APE or API?
APE from the
APE,
police
from
department.
APE, okay. I was
Yeah,
thinking technology.
I got you. Oh, yeah, with an API, we'll describe it.
APE, okay.
I guess I'll start with the good news. The good news is since the county already owns Texture Courts and Texture Prosecuting has for several years, there's no capital expenditure for the Texture Administration Program. It was developed later, and it comes as a part of the Texture package. There's not going to be any increase in our maintenance and operations costs if the court approves this expenditure. What it'll do is simply, we're asking the court to consider the expenditure for implementation, training, travel costs associated, as well as that data scraping and mapping process that will aid heavily in preventing multiple reentry. Currently, as you're all aware, with our daily registration process runs 365 every day of the year. We have registration entering inside the jail. That data is entered by someone at the jail, by Sheriff Thomas's personnel, as they book people in. Then the process goes over to the registration list created. His personnel go out throughout the jail and use PDF fill-in and manually re-enter data with regard to those people who aren't booked in, been booked into the jail. Then that's created, it's emailed and faxed all around the county so that we can get the information on that arrest, on that person, to the magistrate who's going to be arraigning that person, setting the bond, issues like that. We know that obviously law, 24 hours, that process got to occur in 24 hours for a misdemeanor and 48 hours for a felony. The challenge has always been with that paper process to be able to, that data exists and it's created with pretty fair rapidity, but it's disseminated widely across the county and through all the different departments. And as such, what we do is we give the magistrate when they're setting bond and bringing people just enough information to deal with that one charge on this day and get bond set. I think we can do a whole lot better. Texture magistration came about through Dallas and Fort Worth, the Metroplex area, having the same need to a much greater degree. This software was developed to address from arrest to a prosecutor's charging decision. Right now, that process is paper in the county, right? We do a fair job with it, but we're only addressing that one arrest. We're not creating any kind of historical record. And so that data is extremely valuable, not only to the JP judge, but Commissioner Vaughn and his efforts with PRPC and trying to move people through the system and ensure that people are moving correctly through the system. We've all seen, at least those folks of us who work daily in this business, you see a defendant who will just kind of fall through the cracks, or especially folks that have our veterans, mental health, people like that, some of the drug court folks. Where law enforcement, for one reason or another, has put somebody in custody in Clark County Jail, and the case is not making its way apace to the prosecutor's office. Texture magistration is designed expressly to address that issue and create historical records so that folks that we see with, our repeat offenders, repeat business with folks, especially we see a lot with mental health folks, where they're in the jail on a misdemeanor, they're processed through and they're out, and very quickly they're back, right? And what we're missing in the process right now, unless you have a person with that institutional knowledge, is a repository to show that history. Texture magistration is going to be the place to do that. It creates a person-based record. The nice thing about Texture is there's no cost for we can hand out, there's no licensing cost. As many people as we need to have access to that can have access to it. It's a cloud-based system, it's secure, it's with Microsoft, Government Azure, and the cloud. So you can get to it from your phone, from your laptop, as long as you have a username and a password. You can get in and data secure and CJIS compliant, just like the rest of Texture. And it will help us bridge the information gap that currently exists in the county with regard, especially in that first 2 days, in determining, what should we properly do with the person who's in jail, and that JP is setting that bond. It'll also come in very handy down the road for all of our judges, from JPs through the district court judges, in the issue of dealing with bond revocations, increases, decreases, surrenders, and forfeitures. Because that data will exist and create that person-based record, the judge will be able to log into that system and see the history of that person from when he started the program forward. We'll be able to have a repository for all the documentation that's currently created and stored in the jail, all the 1622s and all the jail management paperwork that may later become discoverable in a criminal case. This will put one simple repository for it. Everyone can view and see without an additional cost to the county after it's implemented. It'll, I think the biggest feature that this will allow us to do as well, as far as just time saving, is that XML process, what I just kind of referred to earlier. If you're not familiar, that XML is extensible markup language. And for guys like me that know a little bit about computers, a lot, it's kind of a universal translator. It's a system, it's a language that allows data to be exported and stored for transport and then reconsumption. So we can use that kind of universal translator to dump out information from one county system and then consume it into another with data scraping and mapping. Right? So what will have to happen, and it is included as part of the expenditure here, would be that both the police department and the sheriff's, the jail, will both are currently exporting XML from their software systems for use by various, different pieces of software and organizations. Texture would take, and we would dump this data out. We would be able to take that, and in essence, it'll prevent continual reentry by a person. So we'll be able to task folks, both in the jail, the courts, and the prosecutor's offices, to actually use their time a little bit more efficiently. Instead of sitting down, like what happens at the jail, sitting down with the defendant and filling in a PDF filling with data that we already have in the book, that data can be exported, consumed, and mapped into Texture prosecutor and Texture administration in order to prevent that multiple data reentry. It eliminates human error and it speeds the process, which a lot of this, that's what this, really what the heart of this administration portal is intended to do, is to provide that information quickly and accurately, because we have it there. It's just very difficult to assemble only what we need for that one 24 to 48 hour registration. Here we'll be building a database moving forward.
The day of all days, you don't have to JP in the morning.
Now, I have that conversation both with the folks at Emerald Police Department and Sheriff Thomas. I think that we can all agree that's going to benefit us. I know that this will work both for the, county attorney, for the district attorney, our district judges are happy about it. I've spoken directly to Judge Woodburn and a couple of the others. They're excited at the prospect of being able to have that. Because right now, we want to find out, if I want to find out, what someone's bond is set, what their bond conditions are, who they're magistrated, especially in that first period between arrest and a charge being presented to a prosecutor's office. I go dig through email, and I have to search PDFs and download a whole bunch of things out of my email archive. And it's a fairly manual process. It's there, but it's time, really frankly, not well spent. I think this also provides a significant potential for us also to have better compliance down the road on 3914 issues in the criminal process. Not all the data, in fact, most of the data that's in the registration portal, I don't think will be discoverable down the road. There is some of it, however, that might be, you potentially, I don't think it's going to be exculpatory data, but in line with potentially, mitigating data, and with regard to 3914, anything that's material to the cause, we have to hand over. It will certainly, however, speed and make more accurate the communications that we have among the departments between the jail, the police departments, the Department of Sheriff, CID folks, our judges, no matter where, which bench they sit. Everyone will have access to that, not just from the county office, but from wherever they have to be convenient, as long as they have internet connectivity.
So Jason, two things if I may. This, I think, to be honest, Carrie, this is the most expensive technology we carry under the Howard County umbrella. I think the initial purchase was about $1.5 million. I was looking at some old notes between the prosecutor package and then which was $750,000, and then the tech share courts, the JP package, $717. So I always put that hat on anytime I hear tech share, and it references in the agreement there's no maintenance and operation in 2019. So then my question is always, well, what is the year after? And the year after, because sometimes those books come in after and we just have to absorb them in the budget. So I guess I have two questions. One, has this been scrubbed with our IT partner when we get something that costly? I think it's due diligence to have that conversation. And then two, the total amount of $36,488, is Randall proposing that come out of this year's budget? And if so, where is he proposing that come out of?
Well, Commissioner, I think that, firstly, I think that with regard to the expenditures, I don't know enough about texture courts. I don't deal with that. All I know is texture prosecutor.
Okay.
In my conversation with Randall and with Charles Gray with CUC, my understanding is there's going to be no, next year and following, there's no additional maintenance and operations cost to the county.
Okay.
Texture registration doesn't function on its own. It has to attaches to and functions through the machinery of texture prosecutor. So the maintenance and operations costs, in the conversations that I had with Charles Gray, we should see no more.
Okay.
It essentially, like I said, this is kind of filling a gap that we didn't have filled, because it's really not the prosecutor's function. Until we get a charge presented to us, that's when we go to work, right? But we do have a vested interest in seeing that folks move along and pace through the system. And before, it's always been a paper process. Here, this will let us have a view that the whole county can use. Anybody that needs it can see into this and make some important decisions about whether those people stay in, get out of jail, or bonds reduced or increased, things of those nature. But when you get back to just the sheer cost, but what we're looking for, this should be a one-time expenditure for the implementation, for training, and for the data scraping and mapping process. After that, if there's, like I said, the capital cost, and there's no increase in M&O based on the implementation. Once it's up and running, it's not going to cost us anymore.
So since this was embedded during budget, is this coming out of the DA's budget this year? Or do you have your own dollars that you allocated for this?
My instructions from Mr. Sims are to seek county dollars for this, and we don't anticipate that this would actually be functional until next budget, through October to December.
Well, I would encourage him to look at his budget and see if he can find $36,000. When I think about the amount of dollars in this budget, I would think there would be $36,000 in there. But That would be my own opinion.
Let me go back here a second. That's, I mean, you told me about bounds here, but, forfeiture funds. Is that, we cannot use that at all?
We can't instruct you to use that.
Well, I know we can.
I would encourage him to look at his budget.
Well, Commissioner, I think I can answer that. I don't think he has it in his budget this year. I believe I don't believe that that's even a possibility. I do know that he took $250,000 out of his own pocket, out of those forfeiture funds that the board really can't consider in order to purchase next year's prosecutor. So there's already been a very significant investment, on the part of the 47th District Attorney's Office in, forwarding the criminal process in Potter and Stark County.
Yep, and I remember that conversation well, and that is really what allowed us to make the purchase, because we are competing with counties that are much larger than us, with stronger purse strings to make this purchase, right? We're making purchases like we're a Dallas County, like we're a Harris County. So in all fairness, I think that was his way of saying, I'll put this in to get that initial purchase. But that ongoing cost year to year is tough in our budget still.
Jason, is this gonna help speed up the process in the jail and get people out quicker than, having a whole 550 people in there at a time?
We had a meeting with them Friday, and I think it's gonna help us tremendously. We had 574 people in there this morning, so
I was saying,
I think it's gonna help us tremendously.
spend all that kind of money, I would hope it would help
And
the
that was,
process.
and that was the initial intent.
Yeah.
And, I think that is going along with the process, so.
I know, I'm tainted, I'll be honest, Commissioner, because when we talked about the amount of this purchase, $750,000, that was part of it, as well as we're gonna look at a more efficient department, and we keep getting more requests for new employees, so we've not seen the fruit of what I was hoping this technology could do. That's also what I'm betting, my own mind here, because we didn't see that.
So is it a slam on the technology or the, how we are, funding it?
I can't answer that, I think that's for the department to
I mean,
answer.
is that your concern?
Yeah, I just know that we've not seen the fruit of the purchase yet. What we've seen at the court, when you may see it in a day-to-day, but we still have, the jail is still very full, the court cases are not being moved. We had this huge expenditure, and then we still get requests every other commissioner's court for new positions.
Sure.
That has not changed.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but if we are beginning, we're on the threshold of seeing, the products of the fruit of this big product.
Just from our conversation Friday, we had a long discussion because of the overcrowding. That's when we were introduced to what he's describing to you guys today.
So you.
I think I'm a fan of it so far, at least what he's telling me.
Well, you guys on the front
Do you have some
line, so-
dollars you'd be willing to ante up to symbolize your appreciation? I'm just looking for dollars, because we know this budget is tough and it's gonna get harder every year.
And next week will be worse, but like I said, I think this will help speed and catch those that are getting lost in their process. Like you said, that's the big thing. And I think the faster we can get the information to them in one spot, without having to go through, like you said, this file and that file. It'll be easier to audit for them, but for the judges as well. Plus, if we can put something in there as attorneys and say, this is the attorney, the judge can say, why do I have this guy that has 14 people and I'm never seen him? And so that's what we talked about. I think it'll be a good.
So the question is, where do we get the money? Is it gonna come out next year? You're gonna ask for it next year, or is it we need it today, or
He's asking for it now.
now? After our budget is done, he wants $36,000.
In October. It's, like I said,
2 weeks away.
Right. What we have is simply, we see a potential, a severe need and the potential to help band-aid that. No different with the commission. We've seen the fruits. Well, let's put it this way. With 3914, we had a train wreck coming on in the prosecutor's office. We had new duties that we did not possibly comply with. And that was the driving force in Randall taking $350,000 out of his forfeiture fund in order to buy software that will allow us to comply with the law and not fall in the hole. This texture administration, so like I said, it creates a solution, I believe, for what we currently, that's the same reason we all use computers. We can continue to generate paper and pass it around in fax and email. It's far less efficient. It's not the visibility as being able to pull it up on your phone or your computer from wherever you are. And the fact that we can let anybody into it, there's no additional cost. Well, we can let anybody in the county into the system in order to really expedite forward the issues that we know we have right now, which are people who get put in jail. It'll allow us to distinguish those folks that need to be there. And as they move through, everybody's seeing it, where a law enforcement agency puts someone in there. And then I'm, a little ways down the road, I get a phone call from someone saying, hey, do you have a case on so-and-so? Usually it's the defense team, if they're out there doing the work. Very often it's, another detective, because as you're aware, especially at APDs, most of our business, if you have multiple offenses from one individual all in the same encounter, very seldom are those individual offenses all worked by the same detective. If you got a guy that's got a felon in possession of aiding with a vehicle, and let's say possession of controlled substances, odds are good that all three of those crimes will be worked by a separate detective, so they don't all come along together. That's another thing that this will do, is it'll show us, other than on a PDF that we get email, who's in jail, how long they've been there, what they're there on, who's missing.
This all affects the whole county.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I understand that,
But
yeah.
individuals that are injected into a jail system that is totally in prior to this. But at the same token, I understand what your concern. It does cost. That's why.
As far as funding, I would go to, just do it. Terry, see if there's, when can we get this money?
Yeah, does Randall have anything in his line items now that we're ending the fiscal year in his budget that still has some room, like supplies or, I don't know, what? Some travel left over, or I'm thinking of line items in my mind. Because the only thing we have as a court is the contingency dollars that sit out there. That's really our only thing we could pull from. Even if there was half and half somewhere in there. I wouldn't disagree with the need for the package. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Thank you.
And I think if there's an opportunity that presents itself, anytime you can share that information with the court, I would welcome those data points, because we only see it when it's time for a contract and time for dollars.
What's in the contingency fund? There.
And we start with the $500,000, so the year starts with
in the DA's budget, there are funds here and there, but they're in like medical supply or medical services, and we never know what they're gonna get with it. We still have funds for the person there. I don't know that I see anything.
Well, let me just
Can we use a contingency fund and just said medical funds reimburse the contingency fund if they don't use it, something like that? No?
Well, in the end, it all falls into fund balance, so it's going to have to reimburse it if you want to do that.
Well, let me roll this ball down the court here. Let's say that, because we know that, I think we're all in agreement that the need is there. And it is, we are moving forward. We don't want to take a step back. So the contingency fund is an avenue to consider. And I don't know, you may be able somewhat more creative, Carrie, see how we can do a little bit better balancing, but I think that's a need that we address. So how do we fund this?
And one matter I did want to mention, that if you haven't had time to read the entirety of that contract, there's $4,890 that's built in there as a contingency. Not always, but my experience has been so far that we've had one period that, in my knowledge, that Randall came out of his pocket when we were in the contract. Everything else is coming in. A lot of the training will be going on, will be initiated by the CEC folks were followed up on myself and Haley in our office and some folks from Scott's office, so we can, kind of cut down the expenditure on, potentially on those dollars from the CEC folks.
So that's what I'm gonna go back to Kerry and, putting you on the hot seat here, but, any, firm recommendations that you think you would be more safer to look at in this paper? Because we need to do this. So how do we?
Well, if we do it out of contingency, I think we're close enough to the end of the year that we're probably okay. Say, once we hit 10/31, when we kind of, everything's been falling to the fund balance of like today. So I think you're okay taking that.
Yeah, I'm gonna, that's the next motion. That we approve the approval of the texture administration implementation, minimum texture local government, and we fund the, total of contingency fund in the amount of 36,488. Julie, you get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
May I add 2 clarification points just to follow up? If we could make sure there's a conversation with our IT partner on this as well. And then any data points you can share as a follow-up with you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Second, Commissioner Church.
Motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand.
Thanks, Stacey.
Number 14, Potter County Fire Department to consider and act upon the updated MOU between the National Park Service, United States Department of Labor, and Potter County. Good morning, Mitchell.
Morning. This is basically just a continuation of the contract we did about
10 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's how old this contract is, and, we're just basically updating it for the new versions of the federal regulations.
Move we approve the, updated MOU between the National Park Service and Park County.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor? That was easy.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Number 15, Detention Center Chaplain to consider and act upon a request from Sheriff Thomas to provide part-time compensation to Detention Center Chaplain Richard Ashford to be paid out of commissary funds.
That's going to take, services out of our, shouldn't cost the county. If there's someone you got, or something, he does about 60 to 80 hours a week.
Really?
And we told him to do 20, and that's him and his wife both. So the job and the tax that he does out there is phenomenal. And it would take 2 people to replace what he does.
I believe it's a year.
Yes, this is his son. Sorry. It's work.
Oh, you did?
Jerry, turn me off. Say thank you. But yeah, we're just trying to compensate.
Okay. All right.
Move to approve the request from Sheriff Thomas to provide part-time compensation to the Detention Center Chaplain Richard Ashford and to be paid out of the commissary funds.
A motion and a second.
We know how much is, we pay out of the commissary funds.
We're gonna make his salary be $21 an hour.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
It was commissary funds?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for the
That's
Detention
coming
Center
out of the
Chaplain.
budget.
What did you say?
I would find that, Sheriff.
What did you say?
He said it's coming out of the budget.
When
Always
you never hand
listening,
up,
I'm always listening, Sheriff.
Okay, number 16, 2019 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Program to consider and act upon a proposed interlocal agreement between the city of Mount and Potter County regarding 2019 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice. This is the JAG grant we do every year, right?
Well, it's supposed to, we're still waiting on 17 and 18.
I was gonna,
Oh.
Yeah, there's,
At what point do we quit doing it without the dollars?
Yeah, well, it was, somebody didn't do their work right over there, so they're having to redo those, and I think all we're waiting on now is just the approval. But this one was done, I see, I knew what they were done.
Okay.
Who did it before we did them too? And we're really waiting on some of the equipment that was, you know,
Okay, need a motion.
Move to approve the 2019 Edward Burns Memorial Justice Grant Program.
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor? And number 17, River Road SRO, consider for approval of proposed contract for 3 school resource officers for River Road in the school district.
we brought this to you guys last time. They have a meeting tonight, that's a special, they'll go the way they wanted to do it, I have 3. They've already asked for you guys to show up out there tonight. But we went ahead and included we asked Dad to help us and redo the contract with them, and it does include in there that this we pay 9% on that one person for this next year.
Move we approve the contract for 3 school resource officers for River Road and school.
Second, and Sheriff, it would be helpful at this point, maybe more for me, to just know how many we have at each school, cause I know Bushland came up and
We have 2 in Bushland, we have 3 at Rivers.
2 Bushland, 3 River Road. Okay, got it, thank you.
And I don't think that, Bushland is going to ask for another one unless they build a new high school, which would be.
They probably will.
Yeah, they're gonna have to.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be done.
All right, I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to take this contract with you tonight?
Yes, ma'am, we will. Thank you.
Okay, number 18, equipment purchase, fire rescue, to consider and act upon the purchase of a Motorola APX 8500 mobile radio and antenna. Item purchased through HGAC contract funds to come from radio service. Morning.
Morning. Don't know much about this, I just know we're getting some new trucks in, and one of our new trucks come in, takes a dual head radio, one in the cab, one in the pump, and we don't have radio for it yet. So this is kind of the reconfiguration of our radio system that
And I am in communication with all the,
that is correct. And this is coming out of our radio.
The current year.
Yes.
Move the purchase of Motorola APX 8500 mobile radio and antenna. Items purchased through HGAC contract funds to come from radio service.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Thank you. Number 19, employment items, to consider and act upon the following employment items: road and bridge, resignation of Seth Morgan as maintenance tech, effective August 25. Extension agent, the pay scale raise for Bonnie Cunningham as program assistant, effective August 24. Pay scale raise for Stephanie Swindell as office manager, effective August 24. And in elections, the employment of Chandra Hill as deputy clerk part-time, as replacement for Linda Humphrey.
I make a motion that we approve the employment items as presented.
Motion and second, all in favor, raise your hand. Number 20, tax rate for fiscal year 2019-20. To conduct a public hearing on the proposed tax rate of 0.70100 per $100 valuation for fiscal year beginning 10/2019. We'll do these one. So is there any public discussion today, anybody? See no one, need a motion? Yes.
Break that down to the
I cannot. I can. Okay. How come I don't have this? Okay, the M and O is 0.65099, INS is 0.050001. Is that good for you, Sherry? Is that good? Okay.
You don't need a motion for the first time, is that right? It's just the
We don't
hearing.
need a motion, no, we just have, okay. Number, letter B, to announce Tuesday, September 17th, 2019 at 5:30, right here in this courtroom, as the date, time, and place for second and final public hearing on proposed tax rates. And to announce Monday, September 23rd, 2019 at 9 a.m., Water County Commission courtroom, as the date, time, and place for adoption of tax rate by the Water County Commissioners Court. Okay?
So our public hearing for the budget is.
We had the first one, we have the second one, yeah, the second one, September 7th. I'll put it right here. Okay?
So can you make any comment about that? There's been some emails going around about the sheriff facilities. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in 18, budget 18, we added a position in facilities to deal with the LDC.
It sounds familiar, but I can't confirm that, I will look to Gary. You're talking a couple
And a
budgets.
dedicated position.
You're talking about an actual position that was added to
Facilities to
or LEC.
work with
Easy
LDC.
money, right? Mm-hmm.
If that is true, then what's happened to that?
Don't be afraid.
So, I don't know what was asked, because I wasn't doing the budget. I do know that there was never, that position was never filled if it was asked. So, the need arose to have a full-time grounds. So, we have 3 grounds positions in our department. Gave away, transferred a full-time grounds position out there for the grounds. The only reason I'm even looking at this maintenance issue, we're driving out there 7 days a week. It's 161 miles that we're driving just to open the building.
Lock it, you mean?
Just what we call building open. We drive out, we walk around, make sure the building's okay. It's called building open duties. Anything we see, you report. So we do that 7 days a week, on holidays, weekends, whatever, that's part of the duties. We do with every building we have, so that's just what we do. We're also losing, if that's 8 hours, roughly 8 hours, a week that could be going somewhere else. It's not a malicious thing, it was just me looking at, could that be used in something else? The list of things that we primarily do out there, it's a PM list that we created. There's nothing in that building, we're not building nuclear reactors. Pumps, its faucets. So we also, in addition to the building opening, we drive out there and change air filters. We grease motors. We look at the exterior lightings and make sure that they're on or off. Depending on the schedule. We look at the aerators on all the faucets. I just thought it might be easier if somebody could walk over and do those things instead of dedicating a person to drive out there and drive back.
But we knew that this thing was being placed out there a little ways from our base here. And that's part of that was, as my understanding, that's part of what we understood was going to be expensive. But what about painting? What about other things that need to be done. Who's supposed to do that?
Well, it depends, you make the decision. If it's a touch-up, either you paint it, or if it's too big of a project, you get rid of it.
You do that to every department? Does every department have to do their own painting?
No, that's what I'm saying, whoever's in charge, when I'm in charge of a building, we look at it, let's say this Jennifer says, hey, I have a spot in my office, where nail is, can you paint it? We will look at it, if we paint it, we paint it, if not, we give it to her.
And that would still, that's still continuing, that's not changing on the LEC front.
No, you're right.
So am I hearing you're having an inspection, so you inspect the facility every day? You go out and you do a site inspection, and things.
Just like he does every other building,
Right.
all county buildings.
Okay. So you were kind of moving around that we needed a dedicated person, or you were suggesting that,
I don't think dedicated those guys, I think you're gonna waste a lot of money, we put a dedicated guy out, and he did about an hour and a half worth of work there. And that's why I moved it back. I didn't put him out there, when I got this position, he was reading books, there was nothing for him to do really, so we get back downtown.
in order to save all that mileage that, you're coming up against, that's what your main concern is.
It's not, it's just, hey, I'm in charge of the budget. That's an area we could save them.
Yeah, and I appreciate looking at that and how we can be better stewards of the dollar, so I appreciate the conversation.
So what is the suggestion?
I think the suggestion is that you two meet and figure out what that looks like. I can't imagine we're gonna solve for this in open court. I mean, obviously, it's gotten each one of our
Yeah,
individual
but already
attention.
decided.
My suggestion was,
I think that,
It was decided.
my suggestion was to let the sheriff take care of that facility. As far as maintenance, whether that be Dempsey or that crew, the ones that are across the street. Provide vendor lists, whatever they need on that equipment, if they can. operate that equipment.
So Sheriff, do you confident that you have someone or individuals in mind, and even on a rotation shift, to, that has a knowledge base in order to do that, and be competent enough to take away from, not having maintenance, dedicate someone or send someone on a regular basis?
I have all the confidence in the world that it eventually can do whatever needs to be done in that building. The simple fact was that we just got an email and a memo that said on 10/1/19, this is over, we're not doing this anymore. There was no discussion about it at all. It was just, we're taking this person away from you and y'all figure out, y'all get your own people to come over here. He said they walk around the building and inspect the building. I've got pictures in here of walls that have gouges in them where they've not been painted. I have one spot that's been spackled, but nobody's ever come back out and sanded it or painted.
This is in the LEC?
Yes, ma'am, we have a $21 million building out there, and the way I look at it is he has a person there, that's their job, is to walk through that building and find those spots. I shouldn't have to go around and send in a help desk ticket on that, since you have somebody coming out there, is that, I mean, that's just my understanding.
They should have told me that.
I mean, I've got stuff, I got a window out there that's been broken for 6 months, we still haven't fixed.
So we just need to look at assignment of duties, whether it be,
The problem is that I have no doubt that Ed and his people could do it, but I have 5 people that has a building of 126,000 square feet and 574 inmates and 500 and some odd toilets that they go and check on every day. And the temperature of the water, the temperature of the rooms, and the pressure over there that are required by statute that they do every day. Not to include the 150 acres out there that they have to mow. Comment was, well, maybe we'll use trustees. Well, we do have trustees that help us. But they're limited on what trustees I can use, and I still have to have a guy with them. I mean, it's not like I can just throw a trustee out there and have them mowed over.
so the decision may or may not have been made. So we may need to back up and have a conversation with,
Why don't we do that?
to have that.
Why don't we just have a little meeting sometime today?
Whatever time works.
Us three. Okay? Okay. It would be, yeah, it would be pertinent information to have. You could come to a meeting.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Hey, do you want me to say I don't have anything?
I do want you to say that. Go ahead,
Leave
say.
it, but it's the only word.
Okay. Thank you. All right, number 22, jail reports. We have 574 people in the jail, 96 of those are female. No one's farmed out, and 83% are felons, 10% misdemeanors.
I'm sorry, how many of that, total?
574.
574.
96.
96.
Judge Alongo's, I'm sorry, did you finish?
Yes.
When will we hear back from that study, the third-party study that is looking at,
Public defense.
yeah, the public
We've already
defense?
had.
Yeah, but we were expecting a write-up and a formal recap of that.
So the last I visited with them, we're looking at getting a report, the last this month or first of October.
Yeah.
Now that is, yes, so they've already did the assessment, and now we visit with a number of individuals, so that finalization of the report should be coming out. In a month.
And will we get that, I'm sorry, let me say this differently. Are we just getting the report and it's done, or we're getting briefed, they'll come on site? Okay, so we'll have time to read it, interpret it, ask questions, those kinds of things. Okay. Thank you.
Along the same lines to me, looking at the vouchers, it appears that certain judges charge the county different on attorneys than others. And I don't know why they can't get together and charge us the same. But our cost has gone up. That's tremendous.
That's a good point.
Nearly double over the last few years.
We have some judges that are giving the court-appointed attorneys the base pay plus what they charge an hour. Give them both. Isn't that right? We have a couple, maybe.
Can we establish a policy where?
We do have a policy. We have a scale that they were supposed to do.
But it's a policy, but it's, because of.
Can we
the
enforce
judge's discretion,
it?
yeah.
By non-payment?
The judge's discretion, that's not their policy. Right.
It's not their policy.
I could hold and question 2 or 3 of the judges when I could use them out, and they always have a reason, some sort of work that doesn't show up on the paperwork, that they feel like the attorney deserves.
That's why when this report is up, we're gonna have come to Jesus meeting and, to actually see exactly.
Just make it here.
What happens at Pastor?
Yes.
We're again.
What is it? Okay, yeah, county insurance items, we have anything?
A couple things, the replacement drone for the sheriff's office will be coming back on insurance, and the, storm that the VA has had a vehicle that was hit in the parking lot. I haven't gotten the incident report, but that will be coming up as well.
Any update on the engine, the fire truck that was hit last time?
Nothing yet, the appraiser or the adjuster was coming out, and came up with a contract.
The adjuster came out, looked at it, we're still working on, all the equipment that was on the truck, getting them lists, and, I sent them the list last week, we're waiting to hear back now.
And how's the driver?
Everybody is fine, we've had a couple follow-up, doctor's office for the passenger on the truck, but everybody's still fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Executive session, there's none there. Agenda items for next time.
Just our IT update that we keep as a standing, I think we'll be good for a little while before we got this transition with this. Is that an agenda item?
I'm curious about something she wants to.
Yes, we have gotten some numbers on the queer investigators, like the search engine, that I need.
Thank you, Karen.
There's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.